Good day. In today's presentation, we will discuss exercise. And the questions we want to answer is why is exercise so important? And what is the benefits of exercise for our health? But before we get into that, let's review a little. I trust that you have downloaded the D-Miner application on your cell phones and that you are monitoring your vitamin D levels with sun exposure. Hopefully you should get it above 30 for this coming winter, and I trust that all of you will try your best not to contract flu or common cold or any virus during this winter. I trust that you also up your water intake to at least or more than 8 glasses per day. And how about your deep breathing consciousness? Anxiety cannot live when you breathe deeply. And when you go for shopping, put that mask on and hum your way through the shopping experience. That will increase your ammunition for sterilizing air going to your lungs. Right, let's continue. Welcome to another presentation on Newstart. I trust you have been practicing slow, deep breathing since our last meeting. You will definitely need increased capacity, breathing capacity, for this session. Just another hint, slow and deep breathing. When you have a child throwing a tantrum, encourage him to calm down by picking him up or her up and holding them tight against your chest while breathing slow and deep yourself. Soon he or she should adapt to your rhythm, and it's remarkable how they will quiet down then. Well, the authority on life told Adam, all the days of your life you will have to work hard. New International Reader's Version. Verse 19 gives more insight. In the sweat of your face you shall eat bread. New King James Version. The tent maker Apostle Paul had straight talk in 2 Thessalonians 3 verse 10. If you don't work, you don't eat. CEV version, Contemporary English Version. Well, the instruction is clear. You better get moving. Walk, run, climb, shovel, push, pull, cultivate, harvest. In this picture, I captured the sunshine, which is lighting up the fresh air loaded with healthy aerosols from blue gum and camphor trees mainly, while enjoying our forest bathing exercise in the forest next door to our property. Is it not good to understand Newstart principles and to employ them correctly? Life is good. Hippocrates, 300 BC, said, if you're in a bad mood, go for a walk. If you're still in a bad mood, go for another walk. The person who becomes breathless and tired after climbing a flight of stairs is not physically fit. In the insert table at the top right, you can see the difference between fit and unfit in terms of stroke volume and heartbeat. Quite a difference. Physical activity is any movement of the body that causes your muscle to contract and your heart rate to increase. Everyday activities such as carrying groceries, vacuuming, walking, climbing a flight of stairs, all are physical activities. Aerobic Exercise, which means exercise in the presence of oxygen or needing oxygen, causes several changes in skeletal muscle. Mitochondria increase in number. The fibers make more myoglobin, and more capillaries surround the fibers. These changes result in greater resistance to fatigue and more efficient metabolism. Aerobic exercise also benefits heart muscle. It results in the heart being able to pump a larger volume of blood with each beat due to an increase in the size of the heart's ventricles, as the table indicated. To remain healthy, muscles must be used. The condition in which muscle mass is lost is called atrophy. Atrophy can occur when muscles do not get enough exercise, or if an injury such as a bone fracture causes immobility. Here you can see an active and a non-active brain due to exercise. In this study, teen fitness was linked to higher IQ. Being physically fit at the age of 18 is linked to a higher IQ, a new study finds. The researchers also showed that fitness predicts greater educational and professional achievement later in life. It now appears that compulsory military training did young South Africans a lot of good back in the 70s. Exercise can also help you score higher in your mathematics classes. A lack of physical activity, particularly among children in the developing world, is one of the major causes of obesity. A growing number of studies support the idea that physical exercise is a lifestyle factor that might lead to increased physical and mental health throughout life. And in the graphs here below, you can see the relationship between mathematics score and aerobic capacity. A graph from the same study showing highly significant cognitive benefit for exercise, controlled spatial and speed task measurements. In conclusion, the article states that there is a converging evidence at the molecular, cellular, behavioral, and systems level that physical activity participation is beneficial to cognition. Such evidence highlights the importance of promoting physical activity across the lifespan to reverse obesity and disease trends, as well as to prevent or reverse cognitive or neural decline. Accordingly, physical activity can serve to promote health and function in individuals, while also lessening the health and economic burden placed on society. No wonder then that Time magazine of September 1, 2016 posted a front cover stating the exercise cure. Fitting then to quote a British statesman who lived in the 1800s, who said, "Those who think they have no time for bodily exercise will sooner or later have to find time for illness." This is a picture and news clipping printed in the Boerlander, April 2017, about Dr. Eric Webster, who at age 89 ran his 14th Two Oceans half marathon. And he was also requested to open the event with prayer. He actually has done that for the past 27 years. He said, "It has been a great blessing for my physical, my mental, and my spiritual health." Another example comes from the USA. Mavis Lindgren, at the age of 62, already suffered 4 bouts of pneumonia. As a retired nurse, she was encouraged to take responsibility of her health. She started out slow, but from the age of 70 up to the age of 90, she ran 75 marathons in competition. At 80 years old, Loma Linda University tested her heart and lung efficiency to be the same as that of a 22-year-old woman. After I started running, I never had another cold and I was never sick another day. Many aspects of aging have to do with personal choice. I looked at South African stats, but what I could find was skewed by infectious diseases such as HIV and tuberculosis, which causes deaths in South Africa to be proportionally much, much higher than for the USA. The second highest index for South Africa goes under so-called ill-defined. So I will use USA statistics for the sake of this study. In this slide, you can see, which comes from the American Journal of Medicine, the authors noted that poor diet and physical inactivity likely will overtake tobacco soon as the leading cause of death. In this graph, you can see that tobacco is the highest factor, all-cause death, and inactivity diet is the second highest. According to the authors, the potential to reduce preventable death through lifestyle changes is not matched by current social commitment or adequate public health outreach and resources. In this slide from a YouTube channel, Every Body Walk documentary, at least 400,000 Americans die of sudden cardiac arrest each year, a preventable disease. This was a 20-year follow-up study on frequency, type, and volume of leisure time physical activity and the relationship with risk of coronary heart disease in young women. The results indicated that 150 minutes per week exercise lower the risk of heart attack by 45%. This association was not modified by weight, emphasizing that it is important for normal weight, overweight, and obese to be physically active. Diseases that can benefit from exercise is, amongst others, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, stroke, cancer, psychosis, both in adults and in children, obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and frailty syndrome. A Stanford runners study ran from 1984 up to 2005. At the beginning of the study, the subscribed 538 runners ran an average of about 4 hours a week. After 21 years, their running time declined to an average of just over 1 hour a week, but they were still reaping the benefits from running. Both study groups, in other words, the runners and the control group, became more disabled after the 21 years of aging. But for runners, the onset of disability was slower and started later. Runners' initial disability was 16 years later than non-runners. Not only did running delay disability, but the gap between the runners and the non-runners abilities got bigger with time. The now famous Farmington study by Boston University has been investigating lifestyle and cardiovascular health since 1948. More than 5,000 participants for more than 3 generations. One of the outcomes is the evidence that low physical activity is associated with a higher risk for dementia in older individuals, suggesting that a reduced risk of dementia and higher brain volume may be additional health benefits of maintaining physical activity into old age. This review is on osteoporosis and exercise. And the conclusion was that cross-sectional studies have shown a positive correlation between bone mineral density and exercise. Intervention studies suggest that high-impact exercises are better at increasing bone mineral density. High impact will be such as running. It is the opinion of the authors that exercise should be encouraged in those at risk of osteoporosis and even those with osteoporosis, along with other lifestyle measures. Adequate intake of calcium, stop smoking, modest alcohol or no alcohol consumption, and maintaining an adequate body weight. Exercise has important additional benefits, such as increased muscle strength and coordination, which decrease the risk of trauma leading to osteoporosis or fractures. Exercise also has other benefits, which are important for the general well-being of patients. For example, decreasing cardiovascular disease, or decrease the risk of diabetes, and helping for depression even. This is so typical of anything in life. To be sedentary is not good. On the other hand, to take it up in extreme measure is also not good. So be moderate in whatever you do. Moderate exercise training effects on the duration and the symptoms from respiratory tract infection was studied in this journal publication, and you see the results in this graph. A risk for upper respiratory tract infection is higher in people who do not exercise, but also who do intense or long duration exercises such as a marathon. The number of symptom days per upper tract incident was reduced by 50% for moderate exercise group compared to the marathon group. And this was done by a South African research group. Looking at the 2 Ocean Marathon in Cape Town. And they concluded that runners who was questioned on the day before and then again 2 weeks after the race had symptoms of upper respiratory tract infection, which was 33.3% higher for runners compared to 15.3% for the controls, and were mostly common in those who achieved the faster race times. The incidence in the slow runners was no greater than that for the controls. Faster runners also experienced more musculoskeletal pain during and after the race. These results suggest a relationship between acute stress and susceptibility of upper respiratory tract infections, impairment of one or more local muscle or general host defenses may account for this effect. This is a dose-response curve for activity against mortality risk. Activity is standardized in terms of energy consumption. I will explain the MET in the next slide, but do notice that the curve again shows that you can exercise too much. Any movement is exercise, but energy consumption can differ greatly. So it is only natural that somebody started to work on a compendium for standard units. So if you are not familiar with the metabolic equivalent time units, then find the compendium online and page through the categories and metabolic equivalents. Metabolic rate is measured in kilojoules per kilogram per hour, with 1 the metabolic rate obtained while at rest. Most activities one can engage in has been logged. I have listed examples from different major groups on the left. Bicycling, for instance, can earn you 8 units, mild stretching 2.5 units, vacuuming the house 3.5 units, and sitting quietly in church earn you slightly more than resting 1.3 units. Now that you understand the principle of the MET, you can read research findings that use the MET scores. In this study, the group with metabolic equivalent score of more than 8 enjoyed a significant better health outcome than the sedentary group with a MET lower than 5 in terms of relative risk of death for various diseases such as hypertension, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, diabetes, smoking, a BMI higher than 30, and high cholesterol. This graph shows age-adjusted relative risk for death from any cause according to quintile of exercise capacity among normal subjects and subjects with cardiovascular disease. The subgroup of subjects with the highest exercise capacity, quintile 5, was used as the reference category. The present results confirm the usefulness of exercise capacity in men. The prognostic power of exercise capacity is similar among apparently healthy persons and patients with cardiovascular conditions who are referred for exercise testing. So why do we need exercise? Well, one of the reasons is that active muscle produce anti-inflammatory meiokinins or interleukin-6, which also assist in visceral fat removal. Type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, colon cancer, breast cancer, dementia, and depression constitute a cluster of diseases which is now defined as the disease zone of physical inactivity. Physical inactivity appears to be an independent and a strong risk factor for accumulation of visceral fat, which again is a source of systematic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is involved in the pathogenesis of insulin resistance, arteriosclerosis, neurodegeneration, and tumor growth. The finding that muscles produce and release meiokinins provides a conceptual basis to understand the mechanisms whereby exercise influences metabolism and exerts anti-inflammatory effects. The title of this article is Telomeres and Lifestyle Factors, Roles in Cellular Aging. This is more good news. Exercise maintain telomere integrity. Telomeres act as end caps for chromosomes and protect the chromosomes from end weathering. Telomere shortening or weathering may be predictive in risks for diseases and early mortality. In this research publication, it was shown that telomerase inactivation accelerate aging. Telomerase is the enzyme responsible for maintaining of the telomere length by addition of guanine-rich repetitive sequences. This study found a strong association between physical fitness and telomere length in 944 patients with coronary heart disease. After adjusting for other patient characteristics, including markers for cardiac disease severity, physical inactivity, participants with low exercise capacity, that is, with METs lower than 5, had a 94% greater odds of having short telomere length than those with high exercise capacity, greater than 7 METs. This study demonstrated for the first time a strong relationship between physical fitness and telomere length. This article supports the idea that vigorous physical activity appears to protect those experiencing high stress by buffering its relationship with telomere length. We propose pathways through which physical activity acts to buffer stress effects. In this article, overall physical activity was significantly and meaningfully associated with telomere length in US men and women. Evidently, adults who participate in high levels of physical activity tend to have longer telomeres, accounting for years of reduced cellular aging compared to their more sedentary counterparts. So, to sum up what we've said so far in 3 sentences, man was designed to walk and work. Every system in the body requires physical activity for normal development. To be physically inactive is not only abnormal, it is pathological. According to the American College of Sports Medicine, estimated 150 minutes per week of moderate intensity exercise will decrease heart disease by 40%, stroke by 27%, diabetes by 50%, high blood pressure by 50%, breast cancer by 50%, colon cancer by 60%, Alzheimer's disease by 33%, and as effective as Prozac or behavioral therapy for depression. The way our body functions and maintains itself testify of an absolute master design. I do encourage you to find time to watch the animation video shown here of how the muscle contracts process works.
We will now look at some words of wisdom spoken more than 100 years ago. When useful labor is combined with study, there is no need of gymnastic exercises, and much more benefit is derived from work performed in the open air than from indoor exercise. The farmer and the mechanic each have physical exercise, yet the farmer is much the healthier of the two, for nothing short of the invigorating air and sunshine will fully meet the wants of the system. The former finds in his labor all the movements that were ever practiced in the gymnasium, and his movement room is the open fields, the canopy of heaven is its roof, and the solid earth is its floor. Exercise in the open air should be prescribed as a life-giving necessity, and for such exercises there is nothing better than the cultivation of the soil. Let patients have flower beds to care for, or work to do in the orchard or the vegetable garden. As they are encouraged to leave their rooms and spend time in the open air, cultivating flowers or doing some other light, pleasant work, their attention will be diverted from themselves and from their suffering.
I trust you received a blessing from this presentation and look forward to the next one. See you then.